Hello YouTubers, you're watching Just Do It Yourself channel, and today we have 2009 Ford Edge and we will do front brakes. So we'll start with removing the wheel, 19mm lug nuts. Just use half-inch impact and 19mm socket. All the parts and tools in the link in the description. So next we'll need to remove caliper, two 17mm bolts, and we'll need a little hook to hang it so it's not putting too much stress on the hoses. Before we remove the caliper off, we'll just take the pry bar and we'll press the caliper so we can compress the piston a bit so the brake pads are loose. So now when they are loose, let's go with 17mm socket. Get the top one removed, the bottom removed. Then you need to watch the difference. So the thicker is on top, thinner is at the bottom. Now I'll just pull the caliper off and we'll hang it on that hook. So we can remove the brake pads, and the issue is you can see that the rotor is rusted, so the inner brake pad doesn't really work too much. So next we will remove the caliper bracket. That's 19mm, two bolts, one here and one over there. Two bolts. Doesn't seem like there isn't any Loctite. So the caliper is off. Next I need to get the rotor off. This one doesn't have any screws holding it to the knuckle, so we'll just hammer it off. We are replacing this rotor, so we're not worrying damaging it too much. Also, the ABS sensor works with that sprocket versus the magnetic ring, so we don't worry about damaging the magnetic ring too. So just a few good slams, it should come off. Actually, one is enough. And this is the reason why we're replacing it. So out of all those, that thickness, only like probably 20% is actually working. So next we'll need to clean this hub, the bearing, so there is no rust, there is no big chunks of rust. Same we do with the bracket. So we remove this hardware, just pull it off. Same from the top. And we need to make sure that all those surfaces where the hardware sits is clean and free of any rust, dust, and any debris. So we'll just use a wire brush to do that and file. Alright, so to clear the hub, we'll just use the wire brush on the drill. And we'll go around. Make sure to wear some dust mask, because that is quite nasty. So we'll just finish it. Okay, so now when our hub is nice and shiny, and it's important to have it all cleaned up, because if this surface is not flat and you put the new rotor on, with the time it will start giving you vibrations. Another thing that you want to do is to clean this surface where the caliper bracket gets in touch with the wheel knuckle. For the same reason, if there is dust, rust, it won't sit flat. and that will start causing issues down the road. So this surface has to be cleaned, this surface has to be... Alright, so next we will work with the caliper bracket. So we will remove the hardware. One important thing to note, like all the flat pieces go on the inside where the brake pad goes. All those curly ones go on the outside. So we'll just remove this hardware, and all the parts in the description to the video. The next important part is to clean all those area where the hardware sits. First we do wire wheel, and then we will do it with the file. So now when the wire wheel part is done, we will just go with the file and clean those surfaces. Because wire wheel normally will make it nice and shiny, but major rust will stay on. So we want to make sure that it is as clean as possible to prevent the pads being stuck and seized. So we'll just do the same exercise for all four parts. Okay, so those pieces are clean. Now we'll just remove those boots. Those boots are really cheap. You can get a set less than $10, but if they start leaking, you will waste your brake job because your sliding pins get seized. It just ruin your brakes. So this one is unique. So at this point, we'll just use some brake clean to clean the one that is closed on the other side. We'll put some brake clean, use some towel, and it wasn't leaking, it wasn't cracked, so all the grease inside is actually nice and clean, so we don't worry too much about getting everything out. Oops. And now we'll just dry it with compressed air. So next we will use some brake lubricant, and we will put it inside where those sliding pin goes. You don't want to put too much, just enough, because it's closed at the back, so if there is too much, the sliding pin won't go in. So now we'll just install this bushing rubber boot. So the screwdriver to press it out. Okay, to get this one in, we'll just put some WD-40 so it's a little bit lubricated, and we'll use dull end of the screwdriver. We'll just push it in. Just go gently, you don't want to break it. Now it's on both sides. We'll put a little bit of grease inside of this tube too. Next, before we install the hardware, we will put grease on those surfaces that we cleaned. And the main purpose of that is to prevent further oxidation, corrosion. As if we can prevent water and air getting to the metal, it will keep nice and clean. So now we'll just put those hardware pieces in. And remember, curly things on the outside, flat on the inside. Same on the other side. Okay, so last thing we will take a rag or a towel and just remove any excessive grease. Actually, one more step. So we will apply some grease on top of the hardware. Some people do that, some people don't. Just tiny bit, you don't need much. You don't want that grease to get in rotors at the end of the day. I always apply and never had an issue. So now when this is done, we will go with the towel and make sure that those areas were getting close to the rotors, they are free of grease. Another thing that we should do, those surfaces where they get in touch with the wheel knuckle, you need to make sure that they are clean too. And that should be it for the caliper bracket preparation part. Okay, so with the new rotors, we have usually them covered in oil. We just use brake clean and a clean rag to get it removed. Normally they apply oil so they don't rust in the box. Then I do the same for the other side. Spray brake clean. You get it right. Next we will apply anti-seize on the wheel hub, just to avoid any corrosion. So next time when we replacing this, we won't need to do much of the cleaning. We'll just wipe it off and just go all the way around all the surfaces. It doesn't need to be a thick layer, as long as it is just a little bit. That will prevent any corrosions in the future. Also go all the way around the center bore so your wheel doesn't get stuck. So now we can actually put the rotor back on. Just like that. So next we need to take care of the pistons. So we do same, we file them while they are still sticking out. Then go with the file and make sure that there is no rust build up. And again, the purpose is just to make sure that nothing is sticking out. They're 100% flat. So when they are applied, they push evenly on the pad. There's just a little bit left on this side. Good. Alright, so next we'll use old brake pad and a C-clamp to push the pistons back in. You need to open the brake fluid reservoir for that too. Actually, because this is two pistons, you might need to use another one. So you basically just slowly go in evenly both sides. That will push the brake fluid back into the reservoir, so you need to watch it so it does not overfill, because you don't want that fluid on your body parts, since it's really corrosive and will most likely remove the paint. So you just push this all the way in. Now we can just get it loose and removed. Okay, before we put the caliper bracket back on, I'll just use temporarily lug nut. Use old axle nut to make sure that the rotor is not wobbly. That's good enough. So for the caliper bracket bolts have been cleaned, and we'll put some Loctite, just tiny bit. They didn't use it originally, but this will not hurt. So now when we install the caliper bracket back on, so we get the caliper back on, just put the bolts in. Those are 19, so we get them snug. This caliper is on the way. Okay, now we can install the brake pads. So we just need to make sure that they go in without any extra pressure, so they are quite loose. Okay, for the inner pad we need to put this wear indicator on, and it has to be in the direction of the wheel movement, so we'll put just over there. We'll get it installed. Same idea. At the end of the day, the pad should be quite loose. Like that. So one last thing was the caliper itself. We will apply our brake grease to the pistons. You can also do it on a pad. I prefer to do it here, so that will prevent any squeaking. Oh, another thing that I totally forgot. We need to clean this surface too. And also apply grease to it. It's overall tons of grease for the brakes. Okay, so now this is good. So we will put some grease there. We don't want to put too much so it doesn't leak down. Okay, so now we can put this caliper back on. So now we'll install the slider pins. We'll just put a little bit of grease, and mostly at the end, because the rubber boot will pretty much remove all the grease. And the thicker one goes at the top. While the thinner one goes at the bottom, where we had that rubber bushing going all the way through. And that's 17 mil. So 17 mil, we'll get it snug. Okay, next we'll torque the sliding pin bolts. Those are 65 foot-pound, top and bottom, as well as the caliper bracket, 98 foot-pound, top and bottom. Okay, next we'll just remove this nut. And one important part is to go into the cab and press your brake pedal a few times to make sure that piston went out all the way and you have brakes. If you don't do it, you won't be able to brake when you get in the car first time. So get in the car, press your brake pad until it's hard. Okay, next we'll put the wheel back on. As a reminder, 19 mil. Now we'll torque it to 100 foot-pounds. We want to do a crisscross pattern, but that should be it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please check links in the description to the video, and as always, just do it yourself.